Looking at Ochai Agbaji's 15 shots the other night can get you pretty darn excited about his future, and we're going to do it next on Locked on Jazz. Pow.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, how are you? I'm David Locke. Welcome to the April 6th edition of Locked on Jazz. It's the Jazz and the Thunder tonight. Today, we'll look back at the last game when Ochai Agbaji took 16 shots, and I went through, or 15 shots. I went through all of them. It's pretty darn exciting. The variety matters. And what does it mean for Ochai's future as a player, and who might he become for the Utah Jazz as they piece this thing together? The fans' reaction to the Utah Jazz team this year. My personal highlight of the season, we'll dig into that, the Wild West, and a lottery as well. As I mentioned, I'm David Locke. I'm the radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen each and every day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps. On YouTube, you can join the Locked on Jazz community by following, subscribing, hitting that bell button on YouTube so you know whenever we started off a show. So thanks so much for tuning in. Appreciate you very much. Jazz Thunder tonight, 7 o'clock tip-off. Today's show is brought to you in part by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Get on your way with being the best version of yourself. All right, so I geeked out, loved it, and went through all of Ochai Agbaji's shots, 15 shots the other night. This is going to be really exciting because I'm going to just read them to you. It'd be fun if I could show video, but it would be too complicated, and there are some restrictions on that much video. So let's just listen. Just if you listen, you can probably try to characterize them yourself. But it's pretty amazing. And it's really, really exciting if you're a member of the Utah Jazz, because he starts the year as a spot-up shooter in the corner. And that's how he starts. And he has, to start the year, he has no above-the-break 3 game. And he has almost no any type of off-the-bounce game at all. Those two are not in his routine. I'll see if I can find some numbers. I just thought of a way to find those numbers to do it. But Ochai starts the year after getting hot. Like last time I'd updated my numbers, he was at 29% on above the break. He was 3 of 10 on pull-ups. This was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. So he literally started the year, catch the ball in the corner, shoot a 3. And that was it. So here's where he is now. Opens the game on a pull-up transition 3 on the move. Second time is a pull-up off-the-bounce mid-ranger off a left-handed dribble. So he had the ball left side, dribbles in, pulls up for a jump. Open court transition, pump fake and go, drive to the basket for a layup. Remember, this is a guy who took like 2 free throws at one point in a span of about 25 games, and I got super concerned. It's interesting. I'll be real honest on Ochai, and I'm pretty excited when we run through this. Is legit. I've had actually a bunch of concerns all year, like his shooting in the G League. It's just a great example of like when you're from our seats watching compared to where coaches are dealing with him every day. You really don't see everything as much as I try, but so G League shooting. Then when Ochai went from, I think it was while playing a lot, he went from the January 18th to February 15th. So a month, he took 2 free throws. He had played 21 minutes a game at 13 minutes. So 20 times 13, he played, 260 minutes in that stretch. He had taken 2 free throws. I was concerned. His lack of shooting early in the year, 3-point shooting at the G League level, and I thought he should probably be dominant in the G League. I was concerned. Okay, so there are a bunch of times where there were concerns. All right, so pull up transition 3 on the move. Pull up mid-range or left-hander off a dribble. Pump fake and go layup onto the floor. Open court attack with a left-hand drive and a left-hand finish. Catch and shoot on the move, so not a standstill 3. That's very different. He was a purely standstill guy on an inbound. So he's coming left to the ball in the corner, catches, fades, and actually... Notice, by the way, I don't care that any of these shots went in or didn't. Like, there's not actually a note here on any of mine of whether these shots went in or not. That's irrelevant. The fact that he's able to take this many shots, that means he can develop the skills on all of them and start doing them. He had a good game, but if he had gone 3 of 15, I'd still be excited. Catch and shoot on the move to his left. So that's 2 in a row, catch and shoot on the move to his left. That's right-hand shooters prefer that. Pick and roll. Okay, like new. He wasn't running pick and rolls before. Left-handed, snakes back to his right hand for a jumper. Okay, so now we have a jumper on the move to the right. Previously, we had a mid-range jumper on the move to the left. We also have him initiating off a pick and roll. We now have him setting the pick on the pick and roll, which he does a lot, actually, as they run that kind of rub screen. And he catches on the move going backwards. He actually pump fakes and then shoots, and he misses. I actually don't think anybody ever makes that shot. Like, when you're standing in the same spot and then let it, like, once you've pump faked, you've ruined your rhythm. I don't think he was set. Above the break 3, going to his left. So, on the run, on the move, catch and going to his left. Excuse me, off the bounce. Off the bounce, not above the break. Off the bounce. That's OTB, not ATB. OTB, off the bounce, going to his 3. All right, so now we have on the move 3 going to his left, on the 3 move going to his left, pull up 3 in transition, and an off the bounce 3 going to his left. Another catch and shoot off movement. It's really a valuable skill. Like, that's catch and shoot off movement, not just purely standstills when you become a pretty special shooter. Or you become really, really, really hard to guard. Right? You're more than just Danny Green. Danny Green is a standstill 3-point shooter in the corner. Catch and shoot off movement, I just said. Left-hand drive from the right wing. So right wing, left-hand drive in, so that means you're bringing it into traffic. 1 dribble to his right for a 3. Okay, so we now have an off-the-bounce 3 going left, and we have an off-the-bounce 3 going right. Rebound following missed. A standstill 3, which I think he's really good at. And his last one was a right-hand drive to a runner in the lane, which was pretty awkward and looked as though he was kind of out of it, which I love. Because that's how you learn. If you're not right-hand driving in the lane for a floater that looks ridiculous, you don't actually ever figure out how to do a right-hand floater that looks normal. That array of 15 shots is crazy. So we have transition on the move, pull up mid-ranger going left, pull up mid-ranger going right. We have catch and shoot going on the move to the left. We have a catch and shoot dribble right, dribble left. We have him running it off a pick and roll. We have a left-hand drive. We have a right-hand drive. And we have single bounce 3s. It's pretty amazing. And it's super exciting. And I'll discuss that in a second. But the point that matters here is the variety. Value the variety. When you start looking at 6'5" guards and you want to comp Ochai Agbaji to someone, frankly, Norman Powell last night, who went nuts, is probably a really good comp. And he carried the Clippers to the 125-118 win last night when he had 27 points, went to the free throw line 10 times. When he's not Danny Green. He's not a 6'5", 215 pound standstill shooter. He's a 6'5", 2 guard that can do a bunch of different things. And that's pretty exciting. What does it mean for his future? And what does it mean he projects as? We'll dig into that here as we continue here on Locked On Jazz on the Thursday edition. Today's show is brought to you in part by our friends over at Intercap Lending. I smile when I say that because of the fact that Intercap Lending has Steve Carter. Steve Carter is the greatest customer service person I've ever been around, and it's my pleasure when I can connect you. So Intercap Lending is a Utah-based company. It's been in the lending business for a long time. Their customer service is bar none the best thing I've ever dealt with. I've done 2 loans with them. Steve did both mine. Our COO, Carl Weinstein, did his with Steve. Numerous Locked On people have gone to Steve, and he's our own personal loan officer, and it's truly just the greatest customer service I can ever give you. So if you're in the market for a loan right now, email me at dlock09@gmail.com, and I will get you hooked up with Steve over at Intercap, just like Jake did a few days ago. And I'll have to check in with Jake and see how that's going. Jake's moving. Isaac before that. Derek before that. Austin before that. I just love looking down my list. We just send these people over there, and I don't even have to worry for 1 second ever about what that experience is, because there's just no one quite like Steve Carter. You can call Steve directly if you don't want to involve me. Just make sure you tell me you're Locked On Jazz so you get the corporate discount. 385-800-8528. Intercap Lending, NMLS number 190465. For more information, visit Intercap Lending, intercaplending.com. Today's show is brought to you in part by Ibotta. Ibotta is a fun little way for you to make money. What? Get cash back? Yeah, for groceries, school shopping. Get a little something extra for yourself. And why not get cash back for it? That's how Ibotta works. IBOTTA. Watching your closet grow after purchasing all the latest trends? How about you get a little cash for that? Throwing money at something for the kids' school supplies, new home project? Enter Ibotta. Here's how it works. You can earn cash back on every shopping trip. Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items from produce to personal care to pantry goods. Either link your loyalty account or upload your receipt after you shop and get cash back. It's that easy. The average Ibotta earner uses $120 a year in real cash back. That can cover the cost of an entire shopping trip or a fancy dinner out. You can use your cash back to buy that flight you've been eyeing. Typical basket of groceries with over $50 more expense at the end of 2022 than the beginning, so you might as well earn 2.5 times that in cash back from Ibotta, and more depending on how much you use Ibotta. You can earn cash back on hundreds of online brands and retailers too when you start with Ibotta, including Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. So right now, that's enough about Ibotta. Here's what you do. Ibotta offers $5 for just trying Ibotta by using the promo code LOCKED when you register. Go to the App Store, Google Play, download the free Ibotta app, and use the code LOCKED. That's Ibotta in the Google Play Store or App Store. Use the promo code LOCKED. Thanks so much for tuning in to Locked On Jazz today, making us your first listen. Tomorrow will be a Locked On Ask LOJ edition of the show. We are here 5 days a week. Appreciate you guys that are everydayers and join us for your team every day. And excited to have you with us tomorrow as we'll do Ask LOJ. So feel free to send me a tweet with the hashtag AskLOJ. All right, if we go to the NBA leaders in scoring, in points per game, and we get past, the biggest names on this list. So, right, we're not looking at the incredible year of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or something like that, and we're looking at guys who this year are averaging, we actually don't need to do the scoring leaders, I guess is maybe my point, is more of who's averaging 15 to 18 a game. Who can we look at in the future of this league and suddenly think to ourselves, this is who we have in Ochai Agbaji. And that's, we try to go find out who are those guys that Ochai can be. Can he be a 12-point-a-game scorer? Yeah, I think he's proven that already. Can he become a 15-point-a-game shooting guard scorer in the NBA? Maybe. Can he become an 18? Well, if we start to look at who we're talking about here, and you kind of look at that similar style guard player, Spencer Dinwiddie, I actually think is an incredible interesting comp for Ochai Agbaji. He's averaging 18 a game right now. He was actually, he was a Pac-10 Player of the Year out of Colorado. He is 6'5", 215. They're like the exact same size. He struggled much more early in his career, but he was coming off that ACL. And then he's been about a career 14% point a game scorer. But if you look at Dinwiddie right now, Dinwiddie's averaging 18 points a game. But what he's really doing, he's taking 7 threes and 6 free throws a game. What the variety of shots we just looked at with Ochai Agbaji say to me is that he'll be able to score in a multitude of ways and get the ball in different manners and probably can very easily be a 14, 15 point a game scorer in the NBA. And, Sadiq Bey is a little bigger than he is, but probably matches to that a little bit. Trey Murphy III is actually a little bit more one-dimensional, is averaging 14, 15 a game. But you kind of look at Harrison Barnes as more one-dimensional, but he has a little bit more variety to his game. He's also a little bigger. But then when you start to get to the guys that suddenly break through and are able to get to the level that, if we take Spencer Dinwiddie's 18 a game, Spencer Dinwiddie's suddenly going to the line, I think I misspoke earlier, 4 times a game. Gary Trent Jr. is a versatile shooter, a lot of similarities. Like, that's not a bad comp. He's at 17 points a game. He goes to the line 3 times a game. Norman Powell, who I've mentioned multiple times, off the bench, 17 points a game, 5 free throws a game. What we've seen out of the work here in the early going, impressively by Ochai Agbaji, is a variety of ways which he can score, which to me say, like, he'll score 14, he'll score 15 points a game, and then with that. And so if you look at that, those guys I talked about, whether it's Trey Murphy takes 2 free throws a game, who's averaging. Emmanuel Quickly takes 3 free throws. He's not very. Harrison Barnes actually gets to the line, only takes 9 shots a game, scores 15 points because he goes to the line 5 times a game. Kevin Huerter, who I think is a beautiful player and absolutely love, goes to the line like once a game. Malik Monk kind of has some similarities actually to Ochai Agbaji. That's not a bad comp. I think Monk's about 2 inches shorter. He goes to the line twice a game. So what happens here is if you suddenly get to the point where you're able to get to the line 4 and 5 times a game, then all of a sudden you are up into the 17, 18, 19 point a game scorer in the NBA, and the Jazz really have themselves quite a shooting guard. He's got to be efficient. He's got to shoot it well. Those are going to be the next set of questions for Ochai in his career. The early indicators are all good there. Since the trade deadline, when he increased his minutes, he's 42% from the field. He's 37% from 3. Those seem, for a rookie, that's really good, frankly. He's an old rookie. You have to remember that. So he should be a little bit ahead of the curve. But those are the kind of what you're talking about. I think you're talking about a guy, since the trade deadline, is averaging 12 points a game. So I easily think he can become a 14, as he widens us out, 14, 15 point a game scorer. And then if he suddenly figures out how to drive, use his body, use his skills well enough to get the line 4 or 5 times a game, then you're up to a 17, 18, 19 point a game scorer. These numbers are a little, remember, we're scoring 120 points a game now, so these numbers are all a little bit higher than they would be otherwise. But that's really exciting. I think that's a really, really exciting next step of kind of where and that's just another massive success on this season. So you've got Walker as your center. You probably are starting to feel like Ochai's your 2. I do think there's a chance we could get really young next year. I really do think there's a chance that you're drafting 9th, 12th. You got to find a point guard somewhere. I don't know what happens with JC in the offseason, but there's a scenario where you end up with some sort of point guard. Ochai is your starting 2. Lowry is your starting 3. Maybe Kelly still is your starting 4. Walker is your 5. Sexton off the bench with 3 rookies as your next 3 guys coming off the bench. I don't have Talon in that mix. Talon actually could opt out of his $11 million contract the way he's playing right now. I'm not sure, does he ever have another chance to have an extended stretch where he averages 17 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists and gets to sell himself on the market? He could opt out. But if we really do draft 9, 12, and 27 might be a little of a stretch to put them in the rotation right away, but you're probably going to want to do a lot of the same things you just did with Walker and Ochai, where you're working them into the rotation throughout the year. I'm sure I forgot someone there, and I've made some. I wasn't planning to do that, so that was not prepared. But I think there's a real chance we could be a good deal younger next year, and have some real growing pains for one more year. In fact, if you look at Danny Ainge's track record on this, the year before they go get Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen in his championship, they have a very similar year like this the first year with Doc, and then they drop the other way before coming back up. And in that scenario, Lauri Markkanen's our Paul Pierce. So, just a thought or two there. Fans' connection to this team, I want to talk about for a second. Look at where the West stands as the Jazz. On the 80th game of the year tonight, we actually still have play-in possibilities. How great is that? They're dwindling. We're petering out here at the end, but it's pretty great that on the 80th game of the season, we still have playoff possibilities. That to me seems pretty great for this season. So I'm pretty excited for everyone involved there. We'll look at those things. I want to talk about the fan connection, and we'll look at those things as we continue here on Locked On Jazz. So if you're building a championship team, right, it's making sure every player is perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to be just right, certainly, right? You better not have a missing shooting guard on your vehicle. So the next time you need parts or accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can make sure that every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know that your part will fit. How great is that? You're always wondering, is this matched? Is this not? Is this... Or you get your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. And with 122 million parts to choose from, I need that little green check mark to tell me I've got the right thing for the right car. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Motors. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel.com/locked on. If you're looking for a little weekend action and fun, make sure you do it with FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, so it's the perfect time to download the FanDuel app, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores to threes drained, court bets, spread, money line, total, player props, or more exclusive bets are all there for you. Everything you can imagine at FanDuel. So let's combine your bets for a chance to bigger payout with the same-day parlay. Don't miss your chance to get the no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and the official sportsbook of Locked On. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen. Tomorrow, we're here for you every day. So tomorrow, it is a fun Ask LOJ final regular season show of the year tomorrow. Crazy. All right. So I was on with Scott and Alex on KSL Sports Zone, and they asked me like what I would remember the most about this season. And I actually thought it was worth kind of shouting you out on this. The answer I gave is that what I would remember most this season is the fan connection to this team. I've said this. I think there's a little revisionist history on how miserable last year was. Obviously, the last, Boyan missing the shot and then going and then all the trades and everything made us kind of feel that way. So I do think there's a little bit of a kind of whatever you want to call it. But regardless, and it doesn't need to be compared to last year, the fan connection to this year's team, this new collection of guys that you didn't know with a new head coach, there was just this learning curve. I just think it was one of the great things, really fun parts to the season. And I want to tip my hat because I actually think it's a sign of a special fan base that's able to do that, willing to do that, and engage like that with this team. So I really, hat tip to the fans for what I think, and you for your connection to this team, because I think that made for a really, really special season. And I think they really felt it. Like I think, they all came into a new city. They didn't know each other. They all kind of were offended by the way everybody talked about how bad they were going to be. And, then they got this rousing support, and they came out and grabbed the city's attention, and you just kept cheering and cheering and cheering for them and appreciating their effort. And I think, to me, that's what I'll remember. I think it probably is going to go down very similar to that kind of Jerry Sloan 41-win team that everybody kind of always talks about very fondly. I think this team will be talked about in the same ilk. By the way, the next year after that, we were less good. Carlos Boozer tore his hamstring. We went down, won like 20 games, got Darren in the draft. So, it's not a linear process that we're embarking on, which will probably be my number one theme of the entire offseason for our conversations. All right, here's how the West sits. I guess I'll switch glasses again. One have readers, one don't. So the Lakers lost last night. By the way, the Lakers, Warriors, or Clippers, one of them is in the play-in. Is that crazy? So the Lakers are in the play-in unless they win out and the Clippers and the Warriors lose out. Clippers or Warriors lose out. So when we see the Lakers on the final night of the season, if the Warriors or Clippers, the Lakers are going to have to win, hoping that the Warriors or Clippers have lost. Unless, if I have it right, if the Warriors and Clippers both win their next game, and the Lakers, they will then both be up a game on the Lakers with a game to play with the tiebreaker, and actually our final game of the year won't matter. Our final two games of the year, we could see really skeleton squads from the opponent. Making Dallas's win last night, if you're worried about us holding to the ninth spot, super important. It also means that from a play-in standpoint, while we're in theory out of it, you never know. Like, I don't know that with our limited squad we have that we can go get the Thunder tonight, and we're a game and a half back, but there is a chance we win out here. Because Denver doesn't need a win, and the Lakers may be playing for health. Now, the only other thing that could happen here for the Lakers is they could be playing for home court 7-8, depending what happens with the Pelicans. Because the Pelicans will be playing the Timberwolves on the final night of the season simultaneously to us. And if the Lakers and the Pelicans are still tied, the Lakers will need that win to hold the home court, and you really want to be 7, not 8. So there, in that sense, I think there's a real likelihood we're getting the Lakers all the way. The Lakers have to win out to avoid being number 8. So unless the Pelicans were to drop one here, and you won't know because of game times, because the way the league has set this nicely, well done, on Sunday, whether or not, I'm going to guess it, I'm going to check it, but I think Minnesota and New Orleans, well, they have our game time. Let's see. What do I have here? Minnesota plays San Antonio here. We play the Lakers at 3:30, same exact time as New Orleans and Minnesota. So they won't know. So I think we'll get the Lakers at full steam. We won't get Denver at full steam. Oklahoma City needs to beat us tonight to fend off and make the play-in, with Dallas now winning last night and charging where they are. So Dallas has Chicago and San Antonio left. Oklahoma City has the Jazz and Memphis left. They're tied. Oklahoma City has the tiebreaker. So OKC wins out. Dallas doesn't get in. But, OKC has us tonight, and they have Memphis on the final night of the year. Memphis is pretty well set. Dallas has Chicago and San Antonio. You would think Dallas wins both those. Minnesota and New Orleans, in all likelihood, play for the 8-9 game on the last day of the year. That's a super important one for us. We want Minnesota to lose this play-in and get us more lottery odds. And so I don't think Minnesota at 9 is where we want them to finish the season, and then we'd love it if they lost one of their next two games, because then they go into the lottery and we get those lottery odds. So you're really rooting against Minnesota every time you can here, fairly adamantly, probably more than you're rooting for the Jazz along the way. That's where we sit on the West. All right, let's do our lottery. So if the draft were to be held today and everything held ground, we're holding it 9th at 36 and 43. Minnesota is tied with Toronto now for 13-14. So combine the two, we have a 24% chance of a top 4 pick and a 5.2% chance of a number 1 pick. Are we ready? Here we go. The number 1 pick of the draft goes to the Houston Rockets. The number 2 pick of the draft goes to the Detroit Pistons. They've lost 11 straight. The number 3 pick of the draft goes to the Indiana Pacers. The number 4 pick of the draft goes to the Washington Wizards. San Antonio drops down to 5. Charlotte drops down to 6. Portland, despite their very big efforts here, drops down to 7. Orlando at 8. Utah holds at 9. Oklahoma City at 10. Chicago goes to 11 and Orlando gets the pick. Dallas goes to 12 and the Knicks get the pick. Toronto goes to 13 and Minnesota at 14. So we would finish with 9, 14, and then coin flip with Denver for 27. It's funny, the last 5 picks of the draft and 7 of the last 9 picks of the draft have all been traded. So you can tell that late first-round draft picks are being moved for the chance to win championships. All right, that is Locked On Jazz today. We have not had lottery luck yet. Let's just not have lottery luck until, what, May 18th? Is that the day? Is that the day? NBA lottery? Why do I think that? I never know dates, and somehow I think that's the date. The NBA lottery is May 16th. All right, we got 40 days to get ready for the lottery. Get all your good luck charms. Get everything you can between now and then. All right, Ask LOJ tomorrow. Please join us. Thanks to all the everydayers that are on with us every single day because it's your team every day, the Locked On Podcast Network.